I thought life was simple. I woke up, kissed Clara, and went to work. She'd smile, and I'd feel like nothing could touch me. "Coffee's ready," she called one morning, her voice soft, playful. "Thanks," I said, wrapping my hands around the mug. "You've been up early again?" she asked. "Someone has to keep things running," I joked. She laughed, the sound warm, comforting. That was my life. Routine, love, comfort. I never thought it could crumble so fast. Then Dylan arrived. Clara's brother. "Hey, I hope it's okay I stay a while," he said, dropping bags at the door. "Of course," I said, smiling, hiding a flicker of unease. Clara's smile was wide, almost too wide. "It's fine. It'll be nice to have him around," she said. I nodded, but something didn't sit right. Days passed. Dylan's presence started small, but sharp. "Are you sure that's the best way to invest?" he asked one night, glancing at the spreadsheet on my laptop. I froze. "I know what I'm doing," I said. "I just think you might be overlooking risks," he countered, leaning back, confident. Clara, next to me, murmured, "Maybe he has a point." My stomach sank. I tried to laugh it off. "I appreciate advice, Dylan, but I've run the numbers. It's solid." He shrugged. "Just saying, your approach is risky." Clara's eyes darted to his, and she nodded subtly. "We should think it through," she added. I felt my chest tighten. This wasn't about advice. It was alignment, a quiet betrayal. "You okay?" Clara whispered later that night, as we got ready for bed. I shook my head. "Something's off. I don't know what, but it feels like you two are aligned against me." She hesitated. "I'm just looking out for you," she said. "For both of us." But I caught the way she avoided my eyes. That small gesture, the one she probably thought I wouldn't notice, made my heart pound. I tried conversation, subtle and careful. "Dylan, you've been critical lately. Are you trying to undermine me?" I asked one evening, keeping my voice steady. He laughed softly. "Undermine? I'm just making sure you don't make mistakes. You're ambitious, sure, but reckless sometimes." Clara chimed in. "He's right. Maybe you should listen." I stared at them both, disbelief and hurt mixing in my chest. One afternoon, I went through some documents. My hands trembled slightly when I found emails Dylan had sent Clara. He'd painted me as reckless, irresponsible, even selfish. She had responded with concern and agreement. My stomach dropped. "I can't believe this," I muttered. Clara peeked in the doorway. "What is it?" I held up the papers. "Dylan's been manipulating you. You're siding with him over me." She looked away, words caught somewhere between apology and defense. "I just wanted to see both sides," she said softly. But I knew it wasn't just seeing both sides. Dylan had turned her against me. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling the cracks in the life I thought was perfect. Betrayal was no longer distant. It was here, wrapped in smiles, hidden in loyalty, and I didn't know if I could face it. I realized something then. My life had changed. Clara, my love, had begun siding with someone else, and Dylan was the architect. My mind raced, and I felt a quiet, burning determination. I couldn't let this go unnoticed. Something had to change, but I had no idea how far the cracks would go before the whole world fell apart. That I came home later than usual, drained from work, only to hear voices in the kitchen. "I don't think he should touch this investment," Dylan said sharply. I froze by the doorway, barely breathing. Clara replied, "I agree with him, Dylan. I just think it's too risky." My stomach twisted. I stepped forward. "What are you talking about?" I demanded. Both turned. Clara's eyes widened, but Dylan just smirked. "Oh, hey. We were just discussing some financial decisions," he said casually, as if nothing was wrong. "Discussing? You're plotting to cut me out of something I built." I snapped. Clara flinched. "I'm not plotting. I'm just worried," she said, voice trembling slightly. "Worried? You're taking his side over me," I said, anger rising. Dylan leaned back. "I'm just being realistic. He's got a lot at stake. You know that." Clara looked down at her hands. "It's family loyalty. I can't just ignore Dylan's perspective," she said. "Family loyalty? So my trust doesn't count for anything?" I asked, disbelief mixing with hurt. "I didn't mean it like that," she murmured. "I can't believe this," I said, pacing. "I trusted you both. I thought we were a team." Dylan shrugged. "Sometimes teams disagree. You'll see it's for your own good." I clenched my fists. "No, this isn't disagreement. It's betrayal." Clara shook her head. "It's complicated. I just want what's safe." "Safe?" I laughed bitterly. "Safe isn't watching the people you love plot against you. Safe isn't sitting here and realizing my wife has chosen someone else over me. Dylan leaned forward, voice calm. You're overreacting. Take a step back. Overreacting, I said, voice cracking. I'm looking at evidence right in front of me. Clara's eyes met mine, and I could see the conflict tearing her apart. I don't know what to do, she admitted. You're choosing him over me, I said quietly. Later that night, I called Marcus. You won't believe this, I said, pacing my small apartment. Clara and Dylan are cutting me out of my own investment. I feel like my life is falling apart. Marcus listened, calm as always. Take a deep breath. Are you sure about this? He asked. Yes, I overheard them. They're planning without me. She's siding with him, I said, rubbing my temples. Marcus paused. You need to document everything. Emails, texts, notes. Keep it precise. You can't fight something you can't prove. I can't believe I didn't see it coming, I muttered. I thought I knew them. I thought I could trust them. Marcus sighed. Sometimes the people closest to us blind us the most. But you'll get through this. Focus on facts, not emotions. I hung up, heart pounding. I opened my laptop and began tracking their conversations. I wrote down times, words, phrases, everything that showed Dylan manipulating Clara. You're doing this for us, I whispered to myself, fighting tears. I won't let this destroy me. The betrayal felt heavier as I reviewed my notes. I kept asking myself, why her? Why now? I'm not just losing money, I said aloud. I'm losing the woman I thought I could trust. My mind replayed every small incident, every moment she subtly sided with Dylan, and it all made sense now. That night, I confronted Clara again. I found the emails. Clara, you've been influenced by Dylan. How could you? She looked away, biting her lip. I didn't know what else to do. I thought I was protecting you. Protecting me? I asked, disbelief thick in my voice. By undermining me? By letting him manipulate everything? She swallowed hard. I wanted to do the right thing. I shook my head. The right thing isn't watching your husband get cut out by someone you've known for years. The right thing is being honest. She nodded slowly, tears brimming. I know I've hurt you. Hurt me? You've destroyed my trust, I said quietly. I don't know if I can ever feel the same again. I felt anger, sorrow, and disbelief crash over me at once. I wanted to scream, but instead, I focused on the facts, the evidence I'd gathered. By midnight, I had a folder full of documentation, proof of manipulation, evidence of her siding with Dylan, emails, texts, even notes I had made about conversations. I stared at the screen, exhausted but resolute. This is only the beginning, I whispered. I won't let them win. The betrayal was no longer subtle. It was real. It was present. And I knew that if I didn't act carefully, I would lose everything that mattered to me. But I also knew something else. I wasn't going down without a fight. I walked into the house, and the air felt colder than usual. Clara didn't greet me. Dylan lounged on the couch, smirking like he owned the place. I hope you're not planning to invest that money without us, he said casually. I froze. What do you mean by that? I asked. Clara came up behind him. We already decided. Dylan's right. It's too risky if we go your way, she said. My heart sank. You're seriously taking his side over me? I asked, my voice barely steady. It's for the best, she said. For both of us. For both of us. I repeated, voice rising. Or for him. Dylan shrugged. I just offer advice. You should see it as guidance. Guidance. I spat. You've turned my own wife against me. Clara flinched, but didn't defend me. I felt a punch in the gut, betrayal sharper than any pain I'd known. I left the house that night and drove aimlessly. Every streetlight mocked me. I couldn't believe how fast my life was unraveling. Marcus had warned me, but seeing it firsthand was worse than anything I imagined. I sank into my office chair the next day, trying to focus on work. Emails from clients had been redirected. Deals I worked months for were delayed. I realized Dylan's influence extended further than I thought. Vanessa noticed my distracted state. You okay? She asked, leaning over my desk. I sighed. I'm being sabotaged at home and at work, I said. Clara's taken Dylan's side. He's interfering everywhere. She frowned. That's rough. But you can't let them see you crumble. You need a plan. I don't even know where to start, I admitted. I've been blindsided. Everything I thought I had is slipping away. Vanessa pulled a chair closer. Start with the facts. Document what's happening. Keep your emotions separate. You can't fight this blindly. I nodded. Her calm, precise words grounded me when everything else felt chaotic. Later, I called Marcus. It's worse than I imagined, I said, voice heavy. Clara and Dylan have completely sided against me. My projects at work are being blocked. I feel like I'm losing control of my life. Marcus's voice was steady. You're not losing. You're just being tested. Focus on your strengths. Play the long game. Quietly rebuild. They won't see it coming. I swallowed hard. I don't know if I can trust anyone anymore. It feels like I'm alone in this. You're not, Marcus said firmly. You have allies. You just need to see them clearly. Keep your head. Make smart moves. And don't react emotionally. At home, I kept a calm front. I'll consider your suggestion, I said to Dylan when he smirked at me over dinner. Clara nodded, trying to look supportive. Inside, I was counting every small victory, every piece of evidence I could gather to prove their manipulation. I felt a quiet, burning determination. One evening, Vanessa pulled me aside. Your colleague blocked your proposal today. It's not permanent, but you need to anticipate their moves, she said. I've been watching patterns. They always overreach when they sense weakness. I nodded. I won't give them the satisfaction of seeing me fail. I spent hours reviewing contracts, emails, and messages. I can't control what they do, I muttered to myself, but I can control how I respond. My hands trembled as I documented each incident, each manipulation. Every small note became a weapon for the comeback I promised myself. The isolation hurt more than anything. I couldn't talk to Clara without feeling the betrayal, and Dylan's presence reminded me constantly of the wedge he had driven between us. I'm still here, I whispered one night, staring at the ceiling. I won't let them win. Not this time. Work became my outlet. I observed, I calculated, I waited for the right moment. Each setback became data, each slide a push toward strategy. I learned to hide my anger behind a composed smile. They think I'm broken, I muttered. They'll see soon enough. By the end of the week, I had a plan forming quietly in my mind. Every move I would make, every counter-strategy, every careful step, it was all about regaining control without alerting Dylan or Clara. The breaking point had arrived, but I wasn't crushed. I was sharpening, preparing. The ashes of betrayal would become the foundation of my rise that I ran along the quiet streets just before sunrise, the cold air filling my lungs. This feels like the only thing I can control, I muttered to myself. The betrayal from Clara and Dylan still stung, but I couldn't let it consume me. I had to rebuild, quietly and deliberately. At work, Vanessa pulled me aside. Your proposal went through this time, she said, eyes sharp. Small victory, but it's a start. I smiled, a real one this time. Thanks. I needed that, I admitted. I'm tired of being reactive. I want to set the pace, not just survive. Later, I met Liam at a cafe. Patience is your best weapon, he said, stirring his coffee slowly. Quick reactions are emotional. Strategy is deliberate. Observe first, act second. I nodded. I've been too impulsive. That's how Dylan manipulated me. He leaned back. You can't change the past. Only your approach from here. Strength comes from preparation, not vengeance. I repeated it in my head like a mantra. Preparation, not vengeance. It felt strangely freeing. At home, I kept my interactions minimal. Dinner's ready, Clara called. I ate quietly, watching them celebrate small victories, unaware I was changing too. You seem calmer these days, Dylan remarked, almost mockingly. I gave him a small smile. Calm is underrated, I said. Late at night, I reviewed my notes and emails, cataloging every manipulation, every subtle slight. They think I'm beaten, I whispered, staring at the screen. But I'm building, learning, growing. My phone buzzed. A message from Vanessa. Keep your head, small wins matter. I typed back. I'm seeing the pattern now. Slowly, but surely. I reflected on the mistakes that led here. I trusted too easily, I admitted aloud. I underestimated their ambition and influence. Running had become my therapy, work my focus, and observation my strength. I felt the weight lift slightly with each small step I took. One evening, Liam called. You're improving, he said. Notice how subtle shifts in approach yield results. Never rush. Let them think they're ahead while you gather strength. I smiled quietly. It feels good to move without them noticing. At the office, Vanessa brought up another opportunity. Your idea could turn the next project around, she said. They're underestimating you, which is perfect. I nodded, excitement mixing with calm determination. They won't see it coming. They think this is their victory. Clara's messages were cautious now, polite but distant. Dylan continued flaunting his influence at social gatherings. I observed, noting every gesture, every brag, every moment they assumed I was powerless. Inside, I felt a quiet confidence grow. Patience, I reminded myself. Let them enjoy the illusion while you strengthen. Running late that night, I passed a park where children played under dim lights. I paused, catching my breath, and thought about trust and betrayal. I can't rely on them anymore. I can't let emotions cloud judgment. I have to rely on myself. Each step forward was a reminder that resilience was born from pain and growth from hardship. At home, I sat in my study, reflecting on the weeks past. Every small victory is mine, I whispered. Every lesson, every observation, builds a stronger me. Dylan might be proud now. Clara might still believe in him. But I was quietly building a life they couldn't touch, a strategy they couldn't anticipate. I closed my laptop and stretched. I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm moving forward. Slowly, steadily, I'll get there. The quiet rebuilding wasn't glamorous or visible, but it was mine. Every decision, every step, was mine. I felt the first real sense of control since everything fell apart. I walked into the office, coffee in hand, and spotted Dylan leaning against the conference room door. I hear the deal's moving forward, he said, smirking. Well, yes, I replied, keeping my tone neutral. Funny, I thought you were handling it, he said, eyebrows raised. I just smiled. Plans change. Clara called that afternoon. You seem different, she said. Her voice carried curiosity and tension. I've been focusing, I said lightly. Things are finally falling into place. I could almost hear Dylan fuming through the line. Focusing? You mean scheming? She replied, half teasing, half accusatory. By evening, I had closed the deal everyone thought Dylan would take. The satisfaction hit me quietly. I can't believe it, I whispered to myself, staring at the confirmation emails. All that arrogance, all that false confidence, and it's mine. Naomi called shortly after. I heard about your success, she said warmly. Congratulations. How are you holding up? Better than I expected, I admitted. It feels good to win quietly, without raising alarms. She chuckled. That's the smartest approach. Let them underestimate you. Karma doesn't need my help. Later, Clara stopped by my desk at work. People are noticing you differently, she said softly. You seem confident. I didn't realize this side of you existed. I leaned back. It's been hiding under a lot of frustration. I've had to recalibrate. Her silence spoke volumes. I felt the tension between her and Dylan growing, even from a distance. Dylan barged into my office. I thought this deal was mine, he said, voice tight. I don't see it that way, I replied calmly. I handled it. Proper channels, proper execution. Credit goes where it's due. His jaw clenched. You're stepping on dangerous ground. I shrugged. I'm just reclaiming what's mine. Careful, Dylan. Perception matters more than threats. Naomi texted during lunch. They can't see what you've built quietly. Keep the edge. I smiled, appreciating her insight. I realized she understood not just the business angle, but the emotional stakes. She always knows, I muttered. Every move, every nuance, she gets it. Clara called again that evening. You're changing, she said. I can't tell if it's confidence or defiance. Both, I admitted. I'm done being underestimated. She paused. I don't know if I like it. I felt a pang of satisfaction. Not revenge, not yet, but a subtle shift in power was undeniably mine. At dinner, Dylan tried to dominate the conversation. I was expecting the recognition for the deal, he said. I ignored him, focused on my notes. Clara glanced between us, unease creeping into her expression. You're different, she whispered quietly. And it makes me uncomfortable. I nodded politely. Change can be uncomfortable, but necessary. Naomi stopped by my apartment later. You're handling this with more strategy than emotion, she said. That's impressive. You could have reacted, burned bridges, made waves. Instead, you built quietly. I laughed softly. I've learned the hard way. Revenge feels better when it's inevitable, not forced. I reviewed the week's progress alone, reflecting. Dylan had tried to manipulate the outcome. Clara had hesitated between loyalty and instinct, and yet, everything had shifted subtly in my favor. It's almost poetic, I whispered. They think they control the narrative, but I'm the one shaping it. I debated whether to confront them directly. Should I reveal everything? I asked myself. or let them see consequences unfold naturally? I knew clarity wasn't necessary for them. Karma had a timing of its own. No, I decided. They need to feel the impact without me intervening. Let it speak for itself. Late that night, I sat at my desk, sipping whiskey, reviewing the emails and documents. Each step, calculated. Each move, deliberate. I said aloud. I felt the quiet thrill of justice without malice, the first true taste of empowerment since the betrayal began. The small victories weren't just about money or deals. They were about reclaiming myself, silently, decisively. Before sleep, I called Naomi. Thank you for keeping me grounded, I said. Your perspective matters more than you know. You're learning, she replied. And soon, you'll see how much stronger you've become. Let them watch while you rise. I smiled, confident and calm. Exactly. Let them watch. The first payback was complete. Not loud, not cruel, just precise. Dylan seethed, Clara questioned her choices, and I felt a deep satisfaction. Karma was in motion, subtle but undeniable, and I had become its patient, deliberate instrument. I entered the office that morning, the air buzzing with opportunity. Dylan was there, pacing nervously. I thought I had that contract, he muttered under his breath. I smiled to myself. Looks like things are changing, I said lightly to Vanessa as she walked past. She nodded, a small grin on her face. Finally, the tide's turning, she said. Clara called while I reviewed documents. You seem unstoppable lately, she said quietly. I didn't expect this side of you. I leaned back in my chair. It's not about expectation. It's about focus. I've learned patience and strategy. She was silent for a moment. I think I've underestimated you, she admitted. Later that day, I met Elliot in the conference room. He had always been a rival, a thorn in my side. I heard about your recent wins, he said, eyes sharp. You're moving fast. I studied him carefully. I'm just making calculated moves, I said. Nothing reckless. He paused, then nodded slowly. You've grown. Maybe there's room for collaboration. I couldn't believe it. Elliot, once my biggest obstacle, was now offering support. I think this could work, I said, keeping my voice calm. Together, we can secure the upcoming project without unnecessary interference. His eyes flicked with interest. Let's see how it unfolds, he said. At home, Clara and Dylan's tension was palpable. I noticed the subtle shifts when they thought I wasn't watching. You've changed everything, Clara whispered one evening. Dylan frowned. What do you mean? She didn't answer. I could almost hear the gears turning in her mind, the realization of what she lost sinking in. At work, Dylan attempted another scheme to divert a client to his side. He walked into my office, confident. I think you're being naive. This deal is more complicated than you realize. I looked at him, calm and measured. I've anticipated the complications. That's why it's under my control. His jaw tightened. You're stepping over boundaries. I'm not stepping over, I said evenly. I'm claiming what I've earned. Strategy matters more than threats. He left, scowling, while I felt the first real wave of satisfaction. His plans were unraveling. His influence waned. And Clara's nervous glances confirmed it. Naomi called during lunch. You're handling everything with precision, she said warmly. Not reactive, not reckless. That's the difference. I've learned from my mistakes, I admitted. Patience, observation, and quiet calculation make the difference now. I can't undo the past, but I can control the present. Vanessa dropped by my desk later. Your recent success is shifting perceptions, she said. People who doubted you are now watching carefully. Even Elliot, once a rival, is on your side. I nodded. It's subtle, but undeniable. Dylan thought he could control the narrative, but he miscalculated. That evening, I caught Clara in the study. I've been thinking, she said, voice low, about everything. I realized how wrong I was to follow Dylan blindly. I didn't respond immediately. Do you understand the consequences of that choice? I asked. I do, she admitted, eyes downcast. I see now what I lost. You've become stronger than I imagined. Strength isn't always obvious, I said softly. It comes from handling adversity and rising above it. She nodded slowly, a mixture of regret and admiration in her gaze. I just hope it's not too late, she whispered. I didn't answer. My focus was on what I had built, quietly, deliberately, and the shift in power was undeniable. Back at the office, Elliot returned with an idea. I think if we combine resources, we can secure multiple contracts that Dylan aimed to manipulate, he said. Your approach is precise, and I've learned from watching your methods. I smiled. Then let's do it. Together, we can stabilize the position and maintain control. By night, I reviewed my notes and strategy. Dylan's recent failures, the tension at home, Clara's subtle shifts, and Elliot's cooperation all pointed to one truth. The balance of power had shifted. It's not about revenge, I said quietly. It's about reclaiming what's mine and maintaining integrity while doing it. I reflected on the journey. Betrayal had taught me patience, emotional control, and strategic thinking. I could have reacted impulsively, I whispered, but restraint wins where anger fails. Some nights, I still felt a pull of resentment, a desire for confrontation, but I reminded myself that measured victories were far more powerful. Clara watched me differently now. Dylan's schemes faltered, his confidence cracking with every failure. I could see it in their interactions, hesitation, doubt, and subtle fear. I smiled privately. This is what comes from underestimating someone you betray, I said. Quiet strength always prevails over arrogance. I closed my laptop and leaned back. The power has shifted, I whispered, and I am in control. Not recklessly, not through anger, but through calculated, deliberate action. Everything is moving in my favor, and I am ready for what comes next. I walked into the office, and Dylan's usual confidence was gone. His posture was rigid, eyes darting nervously across the room. I don't understand, he muttered. The client pulled out. They cited mismanagement and misleading information. I had it all planned. I leaned against the desk, calm. Plans only work when executed with integrity. Yours failed because you relied on deception. He froze, swallowing hard. You think I did something wrong? His voice trembled. I just wanted the deal, the recognition. I shook my head. Ambition without ethics leads to ruin. You see that now, don't you? His jaw clenched, and for the first time, I saw genuine fear. Clara entered quietly. Her eyes were red, and her steps hesitant. I didn't know it would come to this, she whispered. I didn't reply immediately, letting the silence emphasize her unease. I thought I was protecting you, she said, voice breaking. I thought siding with him was the right choice. You thought, I repeated softly. That phrase has cost a lot. She flinched, looking at Dylan. I made mistakes, she admitted. I see now what I lost. I see how wrong I was. Her words carried sorrow and regret, but also the weight of irreversible choices. Dylan's voice shook. You're acting like I don't matter. I did everything I could. I watched him carefully. Everything you did was selfish. You manipulated trust, not just mine, but hers too. He swallowed, shame creeping into his expression. I didn't think it would backfire like this. Backfiring? I asked, voice calm but firm. This isn't coincidence. It's consequence. Your actions have repercussions, Dylan. You wanted recognition and power. Now you're left watching it slip away. Clara winced at my words. She looked torn, unable to fully defend him, yet hesitant to face her own decisions. I didn't expect this outcome, Dylan said quietly, almost pleading. I followed the plan, but I failed. Why are you so calm? I gave a small, controlled smile. Because I've learned that strength isn't in reaction or vengeance. It's in patience, observation, and letting justice unfold naturally. Clara stepped closer. Can you forgive me? She asked softly. Her eyes searched mine, desperate. I paused. Forgiveness isn't about erasing the past, I said carefully. It's about understanding it and moving forward without letting it control you. But trust? That is harder to rebuild. She nodded slowly, tears sliding down her cheeks. Dylan lowered his head. I never thought it would come to this, he muttered. I wanted to succeed, to be admired. Now everything's falling apart. I spoke gently but firmly. Admiration built on manipulation is fragile. You've learned that the hard way. Clara's voice quivered. I see it now. I made choices that hurt the person I loved most. I chose him over you, over us, and now I realize what I lost. I felt the weight of her words. The betrayal had changed me, yes, but it had also clarified my sense of morality and resilience. You both underestimated patience, I said quietly. I could have reacted with anger, with confrontation, but that would have served no purpose. Observing, preparing, and letting natural consequences occur has been far more effective. Clara nodded, a mixture of shame and clarity in her eyes. Dylan finally spoke, voice strained. I never thought about how it would feel, losing it all, losing people because of my choices. I looked at him steadily. That's the lesson. Respect and integrity matter more than ambition without conscience. You face the result of ignoring that. Clara whispered, almost to herself, I can't undo what I did. I kept my expression calm. No, you can't. But recognizing your mistakes is the first step in moving forward. Actions have weight, and consequences are permanent, as you now understand. For the first time, both of them looked vulnerable, stripped of pretense. I realized betrayal had taught me far more than anger or revenge ever could. It had given me patience, clarity, and moral strength. I felt a quiet satisfaction, not cruelty, not malice, just the steady knowledge that justice, subtle and deliberate, had taken its course. Clara's voice broke again. I see now I made the wrong choice. I regret it deeply, but I understand if it's too late for trust. I nodded slowly. Trust is not restored with words alone. It is earned, step by step, through consistency and integrity. That bridge may never fully return to what it was. Dylan swallowed, finally silent. I felt no desire to gloat. Satisfaction came quietly, from knowing that the consequences had unfolded naturally. Learn from this, I said softly, and do better. That is all that matters now. Clara looked down, her sorrow deep and visible. Dylan stood rigid, regret and realization etched into every line of his face. I had endured betrayal, heartbreak, and manipulation. Now, I could observe the results with calm, understanding, and quiet strength. The lesson was clear. Patience and integrity always prevail, while impulsive ambition collapses under its own weight. I walked into my new office, sunlight streaming across the desk. Everything was mine to manage, to shape, to control. The deals I had worked silently to secure were finalized. The influence I had quietly built was undeniable. I breathed deeply, savoring the sense of accomplishment. Finally, I whispered to myself. Vanessa leaned in. You did it. You really did it, she said, smiling. I nodded. It wasn't just luck. Every small step, every decision, every patience test, it led here. She laughed softly. And Dylan and Clara are watching from the sidelines, powerless. It must feel good. It does, I admitted, voice calm. Not because I want to humiliate them, but because the betrayal no longer controls me. I've reclaimed my life quietly, deliberately, and with integrity. Vanessa's eyes sparkled. That's rare. Most people let bitterness dictate their next move. Later, I received a call from Naomi. I heard about the success, she said warmly. You've transformed, not just in achievement, but in how you handle life. That's the real victory. I smiled. It's true. I learned that patience, observation, and self-reliance are more powerful than anger or revenge. Clara's call came after work. I just wanted to hear your voice, she said, hesitant. I understand if you don't want to talk. I kept my tone even. Clara, what's done is done. Trust was broken. Regret is yours to bear. I've moved forward. There was silence, a quiet acknowledgement of the distance between us. I see now what I lost, she whispered. I regret siding with Dylan. I realize how wrong I was. I nodded, not with pride, but with acceptance. Regret doesn't change the past. But you've learned your lesson. That's the only takeaway I can acknowledge. Dylan tried calling the next day. I didn't answer. I knew what he wanted. To plead, to justify, perhaps to reclaim what he thought was his. Instead, I reflected silently on the journey. His failures, Clara's remorse, and the calm victories I had achieved were all proof of a lesson learned the hardest way. Strength comes from self-mastery, not manipulation. At work, Elliot stopped by. Congratulations, he said, shaking my hand. Your strategy, patience, and subtle influence have shifted everything. People respect you, not because you fought them publicly, but because you quietly proved your capability. I smiled. I realized the long game matters more than short-term victory. That was the lesson from the start. Evenings became my own again. I ran through the park, the wind on my face reminding me of freedom. I thought about betrayal, regret, and growth. I was broken, yes, I whispered aloud, but not defeated. Every step forward has been a step toward resilience. Vanessa stopped by for coffee. You're calm, confident, and independent. It's inspiring, she said. I laughed softly. It wasn't easy. Betrayal leaves scars, but those scars remind you who you are and who you can become. She nodded. And Clara and Dylan watching from the outside is proof of your transformation. They can't interfere anymore. I reflected on the lessons I had learned. Trust wisely, act with integrity, observe before reacting, and never let betrayal define your worth. Each small victory, each calculated decision, and each patient step had built not only my success, but also my emotional strength. Clara and Dylan's regret remained, visible in subtle ways. The messages unsent, the calls unanswered, the polite distance maintained. I felt no malice, only the quiet satisfaction of watching natural justice unfold without interference. It was bitter and sweet, the culmination of pain transformed into wisdom. I stood by the window, looking at the skyline. "This is freedom," I said quietly. "Freedom from betrayal, from manipulation, from past mistakes. I've grown, learned, and reclaimed myself. Every challenge, every setback had shaped me. The past was behind me, and the future was mine to build." Finally, I smiled. Not a triumphant, boastful smile, but a calm, steady one. I had risen from the ashes, stronger, wiser, and independent. Clara and Dylan could watch, powerless to influence my life. The lesson was clear: self-worth, patience, and resilience triumph over betrayal, and true victory comes from within.